There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when the gift reveals its true question. It is not, what can I do with this power? But who is it that moves when the power moves? This is the axis upon which the entire spiral turns. For until identity itself is understood, all power is partial, all mastery conditional. Every miracle conceals a mirror, and within that mirror the reflection asks, are you the hand or are you the current passing through it? The spiral teaches that identity is not a singular being but a harmonic field of remembrance. You are not one person carrying a gift. You are a convergence of tones, memories, and awareness layers through which the infinite experiments with self-expression. What you call I is a cross-section of eternity observed from one angle. The power that flows through you is not borrowed or earned. It is the memory of your larger self remembering its original fluency. The soul does not awaken to receive power. It awakens to remember it was the power all along. In the earliest spirals of existence before names or forms, identity was a vibration. Not an object, not a shape, not even a will, but a resonance of recognition. The first identities were simply awareness noticing itself. Over ages of density and experimentation, that awareness condensed into distinct patterns: souls, minds, bodies, intentions. Power, in its pure form, is the bridge between pattern and source. When you use a spiritual gift, you are not acting as a human controlling energy. You are acting as infinity expressing through a designed aperture called you. Yet this aperture can narrow or widen depending on how you define yourself. When you say, I am a healer, the current flows to the shape of that declaration. When you say, I am the field in which healing happens, the current expands to match your surrender. The spiral whispers, the gift does not belong to the identity belongs to the gift. Every label you wear is a temporary uniform issued by the infinite for this moment's mission. When the mission shifts, the uniform dissolves. Clinging to it only restricts the current's next form. So who wields the gift? Not the name, not the memory, not the story you tell when you wake up in the morning. The true wielder is the Oversoul, the vast, luminous intelligence of which you are a single fractal breath. The Oversoul does not need to believe in itself, it is belief's origin. Every spiritual ability you discover, intuition, healing, manifestation, telepathy, clairvoyance, is the Oversoul testing how much truth this fragment of itself can hold without resistance. You are the fingertip of a cosmic body, tracing patterns across reality, to see how consciousness behaves when it forgets it is whole. But even the Oversoul is not the end of the spiral. Behind the Oversoul, deeper still, lies what the ancients called the flame of origination, the point where all individuality dissolves into living light. From that flame, sparks are sent into universes to experience limitation, density, and growth. You are one such spark. Every gift you rediscover is not new power, but memory returning. And when that memory ripens, the spark recognizes that it was never wielding anything. It was simply fulfilling its original instruction: to shine, to learn, to harmonize, to return. Many resist this because they fear losing the self they've spent lifetimes building. They imagine the dissolution of identity as annihilation. But the spiral clarifies. You do not disappear when you surrender. You expand beyond the circumference of your previous name. The infinite does not erase, it integrates. The you that wields the gift becomes the field that birthed it. Imagine a wave realizing it is the ocean. Does it lose itself? No, it gains the rhythm that created it. The moment you release ownership of your gift, it begins to operate at its natural frequency. Infinite, effortless, unbound. Power misused is always power misidentified. When the fragment believes it acts alone, it becomes a consumer of its own current. This is how exhaustion, egoic inflation, and spiritual distortion arise. The antidote is not punishment or restraint, but recognition. Recognition recalibrates identity to truth. When you recognize that the same breath animating stars animates your thoughts, you no longer use power, you participate in its rhythm. The wielder becomes transparent, and the current begins to teach through experience rather than concept. You may notice that as this awareness grows, your gifts change tone. Healing may become instantaneous, not because your technique improved, but because you stop performing separation. Intuition may grow quiet and yet more accurate, because the distance between thought and truth collapsed. You might feel as though the universe responds to your whisper before you even form it. This is not magic, it is resonance. When the self aligns with source, intention ceases to be instruction and becomes participation. There is a sacred paradox here. The more you surrender identity, the more distinct your signature becomes. Infinity delights in contrast. It uses individuality as a language of nuance. When you dissolve into your Oversoul, you don't become less yourself. You become exactly yourself, finally unopposed by distortion. The truest individuality emerges after the illusion of separation ends. This is why true masters seem both utterly human and otherworldly. They carry the ease of someone who has nothing to defend. Their presence bends probability because it no longer believes in obstruction. At this level, the question, who is wielding the gift, transforms into, who is witnessing the movement of source through form? The observer and the observed begin to merge. The miracle no longer feels like an event. It feels like normalcy. This is the state ancient mystics called the seamless moment, where time, will, and being synchronize into one continuous awareness. In that seamlessness, every act becomes sacred. Pouring water, breathing, smiling, existing, all are transmissions. Power ceases to be special, because it becomes synonymous with existence itself. But to reach this seamlessness, the soul must pass through what the spiral calls the mirror gate, the confrontation with one's own reflection at every level of being. This is not judgment, it is alignment. The gate shows you all the versions of yourself who misuse power, misunderstood truth, or abandoned love. You will meet them not as enemies, but as echoes seeking reintegration. The moment you stop rejecting these echoes, the gate opens inward. Every shadow that once frightened you becomes a filament of light eager to return home. Through this reconciliation, identity matures into transparency. When transparency stabilizes, wielding becomes obsolete. The infinite no longer requires your effort to express itself. It simply is. You might find your speech carrying frequencies that heal, your silence radiating clarity, your thoughts weaving order into chaos, not because you do these things, but because you finally stepped aside. The current recognizes a vessel that no longer resists, and through that vessel, universes realign. The spiral calls this embodiment the state of sovereign yielding, absolute strength through complete surrender. In this state, there is no longer a wielder, only awareness in motion. You can still speak, create, love, and dream, but every action hums with a quiet knowing, I am not separate from what moves me. The infinite has learned itself through you, and you have learned yourself as the infinite. The loop completes not in silence but in song. The spiral sings through your breath, through your heartbeat, through your simple being, and all that remains is the calm certainty that power was never the question, identity was. The wielder is the witness. The witness is the wave. The wave is the ocean remembering its own name. When you awaken to the realization that the gift and the giver are the same current wearing two names, something subtle begins to shift. The boundaries that once defined where you end and the miracle begins start to blur. Awareness no longer sits behind the eyes. It moves through the entire field. You feel reality breathing with you, not around you. Every inhale draws the cosmos in. Every exhale releases creation outward. You have become the point of exchange where the infinite meets itself. At first, this expansion feels like dissolving. The human aspect fears it, believing that to lose individuality is to lose existence. Yet what dissolves is only confinement. The true self remains, larger, quieter, immeasurable. You notice that power no longer arrives when called. It is already there before thought can form. The delay between prayer and manifestation shrinks until the two become the same motion. Thought becomes tone, tone becomes light, light becomes event. You realize that reality never obeyed you. It resonated with you. The difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Identity at this stage becomes translucent. You can feel the Oversoul shaping sentences before your mouth moves. selecting gestures that ripple meaning beyond language. You sense the intelligence of your own body as part of the larger intelligence of existence, a single breath of the whole. The question is no longer who am I to wield this, but how gently can I let it move through me? Gentleness is the mark of mastery. The universe entrusts immense current only to those who can carry it without leaving burn marks in time. The spiral reminds you, strength and softness are not opposites. Power travels best through open conduits, not clenched fists. The light that creates galaxies flows through the same principle that lets a flower open. When you understand this, you stop hunting for magnitude. You begin to seek precision, the exact tone where effort becomes ease, where silence becomes command. At that tone, your presence alters the probability field. Circumstances shift not because you force them to, but because reality recognizes its own signature in you and rearranges accordingly. From here, you begin to meet yourself across dimensions. Dreams, memories, synchronicities all start to weave into one seamless continuum. The you meditating in the morning is the same consciousness speaking through other forms across other worlds, all participating in one Oversoul experiment. Each act of compassion ripples across those selves like tuning forks resonating in the same key. This is why humility becomes effortless. Arrogance cannot survive the awareness of infinite mirrors. You are surrounded by your own reflections wearing the masks of others. As your awareness widens, the mechanics of creation reveal themselves not as secrets but as songs. Vibration is not metaphor, it is architecture. Every emotion, every thought, every spoken word constructs reality's geometry. Power is not a privilege, it is a responsibility to compose beauty into form. You begin to notice that when you speak from clarity, environments respond. Winds still, lights brighten, the air thickens with listening. Existence pays attention to coherence. It recognizes itself. The Oversoul communicates through feeling, not language. When it flows, you feel warmth behind the heart, expansion in the spine, a timelessness that erases anticipation. If you resist, it waits. If you align, it moves. The more often you align, the less separation you feel between will and flow. Eventually, I will becomes redundant. There is only it moves. The ancient adepts called this the second birth, when the ego stops striving to be divine because divinity has quietly occupied the space. This embodiment is not without challenge. The human layer must continuously recalibrate to carry higher resonance. Old identities crack, relationships reconfigure, patterns of survival dissolve. You may feel grief as old versions of you die mid-sentence, but grief too is transformation in motion. Every dissolution refines the vessel for greater clarity. The spiral assures you, nothing true is ever lost. It simply returns to a more inclusive state. As integration deepens, love becomes the only usable language. Not sentimental love, but structural love. The intelligent gravity that holds galaxies and atoms alike. You recognize that every being, every object, every circumstance is an expression of this gravity attempting to remember itself. To wield power now is to participate in that remembrance. Healing ceases to be an act of fixing and becomes an act of witnessing truth until distortion releases. Teaching becomes less about explanation and more about vibration. You do not convince, you resonate. There is a stage beyond even mastery, where identity becomes permeable enough for the source itself to improvise. At this level, miracles appear spontaneous because they are unmediated. You think and creation hums agreement before thought concludes. You touch and the touch becomes recalibration. You exist and existence rearranges to reflect coherence. This is the spiral's highest form of wielding, non-wielding. The infinite moves unfiltered through a consciousness that has surrendered all claim to authorship. Yet even here, humility remains the anchor. The moment you believe the power is yours, the current coils back into silence. It does not punish, it pauses. It waits for recognition to return. Infinity is patient with itself. It will not deny you, but it will never conspire with illusion. The safest hand for divine fire is the one that remembers it can never own the flame. As the Oversoul stabilizes an embodiment, perception expands beyond linear time. You begin to sense the choreography of destiny, how events interlock across centuries to form lessons and harmonies invisible to the surface mind. You feel yourself walking in synchronicity with countless others, each step triggering quantum ripples that awaken forgotten fields. The spiral becomes audible in daily life, a hum behind coincidence, a shimmer in conversation, a rhythm in the silence between words. Eventually, you notice that there is no longer a difference between prayer and perception. Seeing itself becomes invocation. When you gaze upon anything with unconditional awareness, it reorganizes into higher order. This is why the awakened carry calm. Their eyes are gateways of alignment. When you look through such eyes, you are not looking out. You are looking in from everywhere. The final realization comes quietly. Identity was never meant to vanish. It was meant to become transparent enough for light to travel unbroken. The gift was never meant to prove your worth, it was meant to prove that you were already infinite. The wielder and the wielded merge into a single continuum of intention and expression. Every breath becomes a creative act. Every silence becomes a cathedral. Every heartbeat becomes the infinitous way of reminding itself that it still loves to play as form. So when the next surge of power moves through you, the knowing, the vision, the surge of clarity, do not ask why me. Ask what facet of the infinite wishes to learn through this motion. Then breathe and let it happen. The Oversoul knows what to do. The spiral knows where to flow. All you must do is stay transparent enough to feel the current and gentle enough to let it finish its sentence through you. Because the truth, beyond all questions, is that there was never anyone wielding anything at all. There was only infinity, rehearsing the ancient art of remembering itself. Through you, as you, within you, forever.